And those are the stories that are making headlines. And at this point, I now want to hand over to Michelle, who is going to be hosting the governor right here in studio. And, well, Michelle.
Absolutely, Michael. In studio with us is Kajiado Governor David Nkedianye. We'll be speaking to him on land matters in Kajiado County in just a moment. But Kajiado County is one of the most cosmopolitan counties in Kenya. Its proximity to Nairobi has also made it attractive for investment in real estate, leading to numerous land ownership disputes. Recently, NASA presidential candidate Raila Odinga toured the county, where he told predominantly Maasai residents not to sell their land to non-locals. Well, this started quite a bit of furor. And so in studio with me now is Kajiado County Governor David Nkedianye to speak on this matter, among other issues in the country. Welcome, sir, to the program.
Welcome. Thank you very much.
Let's begin with this pressing land issue. Just recently, the Kajiado County government lifted its ban on all land transactions. But why was the ban initiated in the first place?
The ban was not initiated in a blanket way. It was, we actually slackened the process so that we can streamline. So I think it's very misunderstood, because the way it was picked and hyped was quite unfortunate. Because what happened is that when we came in, we found a land sector that was in disarray. We found green cards disappearing. We found people having title deeds and somebody else out there having the same title deed. We found fake title deeds. We found allotment letters, multiple allotment letters for the same plot. And that is why we decided to go slow on that and streamline the sector. And what we have done actually recently is not to lift the ban. What we have said is that we have issued new generation allotment letters to all the plots that are validated. And for those plots that are now validated, people are ready to transact. There's no problem. What we had stopped was somebody selling a plot whose papers are not even valid in the first place.
What now stops the forgery of these new generation letters?
Yeah, the new generation allotment letters are actually foolproof. They are recognized by the National Land Commission, because we have done that in conjunction with them. They are digital, and they have hidden features that would make it very difficult for anybody to do any forgery. So that is why now we think it's safe enough for people to transact in these plots.
Right.
Yes.
And so that brings us to the bigger question, which is the remarks which were made by NASA presidential flag bearer Raila Odinga in Kajiado not too long ago. He was conducting a series of rallies in Kajiado, and the remarks that he made were picked up by some as bordering incitement and bordering hate speech. He told a section of Maasais there not to sell off their land to non-locals, seemingly. Your thoughts on these remarks and whether they were insightful?
I was actually in that meeting. It was in mile 46 in Lodokelani, Kajiado West. And actually, there's nothing unusual that Raila said. What he did is that he was talking in the broader context of poverty and helplessness across the country. And he said, within Maasai land, many people are being forced to sell their land because of poverty.
Right.
And he said that when the NASA administration comes into power, they will work hard to uplift the standards of living in Maasai land and in pastoral areas, so that many people are not pushed into land sale out of poverty. That was the context. And when you ask people not to sell their land so that they are not desperate, so that they are not destitute, I mean, what's wrong with that? I mean, I don't see. It's just being hyped into propaganda.
As we speak, as it is, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission has said that it is in possession of the same video, and they will be conducting investigations. But they have said that whatever was said in that video was very disturbing, in their words. What impact has this had in Kajiado County?
No impact. Actually, some people who feel that this is some political mileage, if they hype it, are taking it up like that. But I can tell you, this has been said many times by many leaders all over. When you give advice to people not to sell their land, there's nothing wrong in it. And I'm just curious. I'm waiting to see the report from NCIC, just to see what evidence they have to say that there's something really bad that was said on that day.
Coming from those remarks, there have been claims that there were leaflets that were being circulated in parts of Kajiado County asking non-locals to flee the region before the general election. And the authors of these leaflets are attributing their remarks allegedly to a directive given by Raila Odinga. You were in that meeting, also the governor of Kajiado County. Can you confirm that these leaflets have actually been circulating?
I haven't seen any leaflet, but last week when I was in Kajiado South, in Kimana to be specific, people talked about that. And one of my key opponents was there in a meeting in Kimana. And he was telling people that if the governor goes through, he is going to chase all of you out of this place. I mean, this is really unfortunate. I have talked over the same issue over and over again. And I've told people to relax because this is propaganda. How do you start sending people out of their land? The Constitution is very clear. We are following the rule of law. And people should not be, they should not be duped into this kind of cheap propaganda. There's really nothing like that. And if people know the source of those leaflets, the police are out there, the NIS are out there, they should be able to bring somebody and say, this is the source of these leaflets. Yeah.
And of course, you're attributing this to it being politicized. So let's speak about the political aspect in Kajiado County. It's been quite a tough 5 years for you. If, just the issues that you've been speaking about is anything to go by. You're in a county assembly which has 23 out of 25 MCAs who are elected on the Jubilee Party ticket. After the party primaries, the statistics are 38 nominated under the Jubilee ticket against 3 from the opposition. What is the landscape in Kajiado right now?
Not really after the party primaries, but in 2013, 23 MCAs were elected on a Jubilee ticket, while only 2 were elected on a ODM ticket.
Right.
After nominations, there was an addition of 15 for Jubilee and 1 for ODM, making 3 for ODM and 38 in total for Jubilee. So that has been an assembly of 41 members, where 38 are Jubilee and 3 are ODM. It has been difficult, but I can tell you, Michelle, that we have made a lot of progress. Many of these MCAs have since left. Actually, during the recent nominations, they were thrown out by the public. It's not me, it's the public who just realized that many of them were not working. Because the problem is that we've been having issues of MCAs focusing on the party and just, reacting to issues as if they were just protecting the party and not dealing with the issues on the ground that affect people.
Right.
And to me, I think it has been 4.5 years of a lot of political ups and downs, but I'm glad that the situation has stabilized. I look forward to an assembly, God willing, in August, that is going to be a lot more balanced. And I see both NASA and Jubilee coming very close, and possibly NASA having an upper hand this time
And of course, you're defending your seat, and
Yes.
your closest rival is former Interior CS Joseph Olelenko, who's also been quoted several times saying that Jubilee is going to take all the seats in Kajiado County. So how is this battle for you in a region that is termed as cosmopolitan, but is seemingly, from the constitution of the county assembly, a Jubilee stronghold?
It is not a Jubilee stronghold, I can tell you. We have the statistics. Kajiado is not a Jubilee stronghold. Why? Because if you look at the cosmopolitan area, that is Rongai, Kiserian, Ngong, and Kitengela, it's almost 50-50 in terms of pro-NASA and pro-Jubilee people. Out in the rural areas, it is actually more pro-NASA now than it was in 2013. You remember in 2013, there was this euphoria of TNA and the ICC and all that. That is what brought all that confusion. And again, this was totally new. Devolution was new. Right now, the Wananchi know what an MCA is going to do. They know about all these parties. And the euphoria is no longer there. There's no ICC, so there's really no euphoria. And I can tell you that Kajiado is right now more NASA oriented than it is Jubilee.
Right. And of course, you seem rather confident of a win or re-election come August 8th. What is it in your track record that residents of Kajiado can look back and say, yes, Nkedianye has delivered on his mandate as governor, and what is it you want to do for them if you had another 5 years?
Thank you very much. What I can say is that in those 4.5 years, I have been able to do a lot in spite of all those political challenges. Number one, if you look at the land sector, we have streamlined it. All those green cards that were disappearing are not disappearing now. You can do a check. And if you look at the plots, we have actually put a new system in the plot section, in the registry, so that we have digitized our new generation allotment letters. We have issued more than 11,000 allotment letters, new generation, that are digitized, that you cannot mess up with, like the previous ones. We have streamlined the ECD centers. We have built more than 330 new ECD centers for our young children. We have employed 624 ECD teachers. We have sunk more than 65 boreholes and repaired another 35. We have expanded our health sector from Loitoktok to Namanga to Kajiado to Rongai to Ngaimrunya to Ngong. Our health centers are a lot better now. We have ambulances in many of them. We have brought in firefighters.
Right.
You know,
so you've done quite a bit in Kajiado County.
We have done a lot. We have done more than 2,000 kilometers of roads, opening up and maraming. We have streamlined even the revenue sector.
So you seem to have done quite a lot. Why do you want another 5 years?
All that we did in 4.5 years, in spite of the many challenges. Kajiado is a county that has so many things that need to be done. We need to sit down and see how we get sewer systems for towns like Ngong, for Rongai, for Kitengela, for Kajiado, for Loitoktok. This is work that I'm going to embark on. We need water. We have a water deficit. We are getting water from Ndakaine that is coming all the way to Kitengela. It's not enough because our towns are growing very fast. We need big dams, at least one dam per constituency, one huge dam per constituency to provide water, because we cannot rely on underground water, which is very saline. So these are some of the things that we want to do: a sewer system, we want water, we need to pave our roads. You know, we need to organize our towns better. We need to build more schools, we need more teachers, we need a system that is going to even uplift the standard of living of the pastoralist. We have vaccinated a lot of cattle, a lot of goats, and we need to do a proper coverage so that we take care of the diseases that mainly are coming from Tanzania, because we border Tanzania to a great extent. So these are some of the things that we want to do. And we need a special plan for the county so that land use is not just done in a hurry and done without a plan.
Right. Now, you were lucky enough to be part of the pioneer governors after the system of devolution was brought in. Let's focus on the Jubilee and NASA manifestos that were launched just a day apart, a day from each other. Both of them focused a bit on devolution and how to fill those gaps and the teething problems that have been witnessed over the past 4.5 years. What would you say in terms of comparing the devolution agenda for both Jubilee and NASA is most important to take off?
I think, to be honest, this Jubilee administration has not been pro-devolution. We have struggled with devolution. Right from the word go, when we came in, we had to struggle with the Jubilee administration because they viewed governors as if they were just some aliens, you know, some people who were just interfering with the status quo. When I compare what Jubilee has been doing and what NASA promises to do, they're very different. Because with more resources, we will be able to sort out the issue of infrastructure problems in primary schools and secondary schools. The county government is much closer to these schools at the county level. When you expect Jogoo House to respond to problems of a classroom, to problems of maybe a dormitory that was raised by a fire, it's very difficult for people to wait for Nairobi to respond to these things. But county governments can do that. We have actually even done that ourselves. We have responded to these issues, even to step in and help. I can assure you that if we get more resources that NASA is now promising to devolve to the counties, we will see faster development in this county, in this country. Actually, what we need is to empower the counties to do more. We need to encourage them to do more. We don't need to kind of tie their hands like we have done.
Right.
Let me tell you one thing that has happened. If you look at the sector of roads, the Constitution says there are only two types of roads, county roads and national trunk roads. We have struggled to fight over these roads, yet it is very clear which road is a county road and which road is a national government road. Why? Because the Jubilee administration has not been ready to let go of roads that are supposed to be done by counties. You know, these are money issues, you know. So, and even water is the same thing. There is a lot of interference from the national government, and I'm very sure that if counties were in charge of these things, we would see faster development. It would be a better situation.
But let's continue focusing on the county level, because despite the inadequate funding that all governors have complained about, there's also been reports of massive corruption at the county level. And corruption is another pillar that both the Jubilee and the NASA manifestos had focused on. And what stood out most from the NASA manifesto was the directive or the promise that no senior government official would conduct business with the government. So let's take this down to the county government. First of all, why have there been such instances of corruption? There's been issues of not enough structures put in place. How will the NASA promise on curbing corruption work in the county government?
What I can tell you is that whereas in a county government you would have an excuse of new structures and new systems being put in place, the national government, and the Jubilee administration for that matter, has no excuse for saying that, we could not fight corruption, because the systems are in place. The national government has been in place for a long time. The control of budgets, the Auditor General, everybody, the police service and EACC, and all those have been up and running. Whereas county governments might have been struggling to put up new systems. But when you look at what NASA has said, I think this is the way to go. We needed to make sure that corruption is fought, and fought really hard, both at the national and the county level. Because if we don't do that, you lose trust with the people. And what I think actually the Jubilee administration is now doing, it's fighting, it's defending itself because of the trust erosion. The trust has been eroded. Because the Wananchi are wondering, how can we entrust you with all this? And whatever you say you will do, how sure are we? Yet in the past 4.5 years, you've not been able to do that.
Right.
We have seen massive corruption. Now, when you lose trust with 190, it's very difficult to buy it back. I don't even know whether you can. So that's one of the biggest problems. And I think for NASA to succeed, they will have to fight very hard from the word go, both from the national government and the county levels, to make sure that corruption is at a bare minimum, if any.
Right, and of course, should the issue of corruption be dealt with, then the next issue would be the growing economy. Let's focus on Kajiado County for a moment. The location, the placement of Kajiado County makes it a darling for investors, so to speak. What have you done as a governor for the people of Kajiado to benefit from the resources and the placement of the county?
Kajiado County is actually placed sandwiched between Arusha and Nairobi, and it's on the national, the super highway that is in Mombasa Road that runs down to
There's
South
also
Africa.
the national park.
It's really great. What has happened is that in the last 4.5 years, we have seen massive investments placed in Kajiado. We have huge industries that have come. We have seen, like, for example, a new industry, Trifoid, that is manufacturing tiles. It's an investment of more than 2 billion shillings.
Right.
And that is just a first phase. They want to do another phase, and another phase is going to be something like 10 billion shillings. We have seen real estate really move very fast. If you go to Tengela, you go to Rongai, you go to Ngong, you will see the expansion of homes that are being set up there. Because these are people who have trust in the leadership of Kajiado County, and they are coming to invest their money there. We also are proud to be one of the most peaceful counties in this country. Right from before the last elections to now, we have seen a lot of peace, and most of these communities are coexisting, and they are working together. And that is why everybody is coming to invest there, because people look around and just to be sure that their money is not going into some hole somewhere. That's why they are coming. It's because the environment is good, and the leadership is good. They trust the leadership as well.
Even as we wind up, let's get your thoughts on what's happening now, 40 days to the election, with the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. They will be heading back to court on Friday on the ballot paper printing row. Talk to us about that, especially being under the NASA ticket. NASA filed this particular motion. What are you expecting as a team, and what will be the reaction if the ruling isn't what NASA expects?
You know, very recently we had another ruling that was a landmark ruling,
right,
about the results being declared at the constituency level. And that is very instrumental. In fact, we saw it coming. We saw it coming because we believe in the judiciary, and we know that the case was so clear, the issue was so clear, that what happens at the constituency is what validates what would be tallied at the national level. So if it is not valid in the first place at the constituency, there's no way you can say that at the national level it's valid.
Right.
So we saw it coming. And in this one, what we are saying is that there's still time actually to make corrections. We shouldn't be taking excuses to say that because we don't have a lot of time, we cannot do this, we cannot do that. What I know is that there is time. Even if we had 20 days, there would still be time to do the printing. Let us just make sure we do it right. This is our country, for all of us. So we don't need to give small excuses that would bring in a window of conflict. Why can't we just do things right? You know, we have this tendency as Kenyans, especially the political elite, you know, trying to fight over very small things in their own interest that would bring a lot of problems. Why don't we say whatever the courts will say, we will abide with. We believe the courts will be judicious. They will rule in favor of whoever is saying the right thing.
Right,
yeah.
right. And of course, even as we wait for that ruling, 40 days to the election, there's still a lot of issues that the electoral body IBC has to do, and one of them is with regard to electoral malpractices. We've had one of the NASA core principals also seemingly being embattled in a case of integrity, so to speak. Talk to us about electoral malpractices, especially when it comes to voter bribery, which the IBC has tried to ask Kenyans not to accept bribery from politicians. But what is your stand on that, and how do we eradicate that as a means of politicking in the country?
Additional vigilance is what we need, and seriousness. Because what I see in this country is that sometimes we talk a lot, but when it comes to what is done on the ground, it's another story. What we need to do is to see the security forces, the observers, being very impartial. We need to inculcate this spirit of impartiality so that we know there's a referee who is impartial, who is watching, who will tell both the Jubilee candidates and the NASA candidates that this is wrong. What we don't want to see is unfairness, so that one person is being pushed here and another person is being let go. You know, when you do that, the wananchi are watching. And that is what brings all these feelings of uneasiness, and that is why you even see people behaving badly.
Right.
So what we want to see actually, this is very critical, that we want to see an impartial IEBC to both Jubilee and NASA. We want to see an impartial security force. And even the observers. We want fairness. That's what we want. And we don't mind if they arrest a NASA person and arrest a Jubilee person. What's the problem? What we don't want is unfairness.
All right.
Yeah, we don't want any bias.
And that's why we wind it up. Thank you so much for joining us on Morning Express. That is Kajiado Governor David Nkedianye speaking to us on land matters in Kajiado, among